and welcome to Shakespeare with Sarah, where I break down Shakespeare for actors. Today I'm breaking down in detail Paulina's monologue from The Winter's Tale. What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me? So good. In this video, I'm going to talk about the context for the monologue so you know kind of what's come before and what's really important about this monologue particularly. I'm going to talk about some acting choices that you might like to make, some recommendations for your process. I'm going to break down all the line meanings, and at the end, I'm going to do a reading of the whole monologue so you can hear how it kind of flows together. Let's jump first into context. You might be a little bit familiar with The Winter's Tale, but this monologue comes at a fairly crucial point in the whole play. So it's important that you really do understand the kind of events that have led up to it. This play is set in Sicilia, and Leontes, the king, has accused his wife Hermione of infidelity with their friend who's been visiting, Polixenes. Hermione has not been unfaithful. Leontes has basically kind of gone nuts in a sense. He's sort of like a fellow on crack in the sense that he's gone completely jealous really quickly, and there's really not any evidence for it at all. He has thrown his wife Hermione in jail. She is pregnant, and separated her from their older son Mamilius. She gives birth to their child in jail and then is called to this kind of sham trial that Leontes is putting on, basically to make a show of how he's actually really fair. He's not a tyrant at all. Sure. Hermione is very calm and collected despite the fact that she's just given birth. I've done another breakdown on that monologue if you want to see that one. She handles herself fairly well. She maintains her innocence throughout the whole trial. And at the end, they call in the oracle. It's basically kind of like the word from God saying whether she was unfaithful or not. And the oracle says, no, she wasn't. Leontes is being a tyrant and the child is really his and all these things. And Leontes goes, nah, I don't believe that. Then a servant comes in and says, oh no, bad news. Your son has died. This absolutely kills me, just kills me. And Hermione faints, the queen faints, of course, because she just heard that her son has died. This is their older son, not the baby. And she's led away. At that point, Leontes kind of calms down a little bit and starts to realize what he's done. But Paulina, who is Hermione's kind of friend, and she's a noblewoman of the court, so she's around a lot, and she has a little bit of clout, but she's known to be pretty sort of ballsy, comes in and is like, look what you've done. The queen is dead. So that's what this monologue is. It's this big reveal that the queen is dead. If you know the play, you know that she's not really dead. Paulina's actually making this up because she kind of hides her away to protect her. And also, I think, just kind of so Leontes learns his lesson. So that's something that's actually layered underneath this monologue, is that it's actually not true. She's actually having a go at him despite Hermione not being dead. You got to think about, why would she be doing this? There is a big impact that she wants to have on Leontes. She doesn't know yet that he's kind of turned himself around. She hasn't seen him sort of start to go, because she was out of the room in that kind of like minute while he was going, oh God, what have I done? So she's coming in thinking, oh, I've got to change this guy's mind by telling him his wife is dead. In terms of acting tips, I recommend, if you have a scene partner that you can work with, get your scene partner to work with you on Act 2, Scene 3. This is a scene slightly earlier where just after Hermione has given birth, Paulina takes the child to Leontes and is like, look at this child, this is your baby. And basically has a go at him, rips him a new one, and Leontes is like, get out of here. He actually says, I knew she was going to do this. And says to her husband, Antigonus, I told you to keep her out of here, because he knows that Paulina, if anybody's going to come and tell him off, it's going to be Paulina. And of course she does come in, and he calls her a witch and is really horrible to her. And she's like, I don't even care. Do what you want to do to me. So it is a scene that's going to give you so much context for what's come before, and also for how the character speaks and thinks and feels, and all of the relationships around them. So if you don't have a scene partner to play with, definitely read through that scene in detail, or even just read it out loud yourself to get a sense of Paulina. You're going to get so much information from that scene. I also recommend for this monologue, you really look at the beats. Look at how each section is divided and how it builds, because she's really leading to a point. Everything is very labored to give that final information at the end. The queen is dead. This is her moment, and you really need to understand where the beats fall to make sure that you're building each time and it doesn't become like a wash of yelling at someone. Very easy to do. You're also going to need to do a really decent vocal warm-up that concentrates on breath support, so connection to breath, because she's got some really long bits before she kind of stops and takes a breath. I also recommend that you ignore the punctuation. Something that you should know about Shakespeare is that the punctuation is actually put in later by editors. So it's not indicative of what Shakespeare really wanted you to do. Often when we're working on contemporary material, we're told, really take note of the punctuation. In this, don't even worry about it. I would actually concentrate more on line endings. So if you can really make something out of the word or words at the end of a line, or take breaths at the end of a line rather than in the middle of a line, that's actually going to give you more information about how to deliver it rather than the punctuation. You'll see a little bit of that in the reading that I do at the end, because I'll try and put that into place for you so you can see what I mean. In terms of character choices, there's actually kind of not a lot of big choices here. Paulina is not a character that is sometimes like this and sometimes like that, you know, like an Amelia from Othello, for example, who has a lot more variety between productions. Even Lady Percy, for example, is a bit like that as well. Paulina is a ballsy woman. She is out there. She is one of the few people at court that stands up to this very powerful king. She is not afraid to die is basically what that means, because it is dangerous in any time in history to do that. But especially in Shakespeare's day, you don't go up to the king and like tell them that they're being a tyrant, which is exactly what he does not want to hear. So she is brave and she is loyal. She is fierce. That's what you got to work with. It's very powerful, but I wouldn't try and tame her or tone her down. That's not the monologue for this. Let's jump now into breaking down what all the lines mean. So Paulina has just re-entered, and keep in mind here that she's coming in to give this news, this kind of fake news, I hate that term, of the queen being dead. So she's really coming in big and strong here. So she goes straight to Leontes and says, "What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me?" Now I unusually would stress the me, like she's saying, not just like, what torturous things are you going to do to me? She's saying, what are you going to do to me now? You've just done all these horrible things to all these other people. This is what she's setting up. Is like, I'm next. This is very unusual. I would not usually stress a personal pronoun because it doesn't usually sound very good. It's not good acting technique. But for this, I actually think that that's what she's doing here, is kind of like, right, come at me. Come at me, Ro. Now, here she lists all the different delightful tortures. It was a violent time in Shakespeare's day. What wheels, racks, fires, what flame, boiling, in leads or oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? So she's listed all those types of different tortures, and she's saying you can use any sort of old or new technologies when it comes to these tortures, whatever you like, because every word I say deserves your worst. I really deserve this. So what have you got for me? Thy tyranny, together working with thy jealousies. Fancies too weak for boys, too green and idle for girls of 9. Notice how often she drops the word tyrant or tyranny. She's done that a lot in the scene before because it's a trigger word for him. Every time she says it, she knows she's going to get a rise out of him. She knows that he hates to hear it because he knows deep down that he is being a tyrant. She's being very deliberate about these words. So you really got to lay into tyranny and jealousies. She's saying your tyranny and your jealousy, which is like, it's too stupid for even like little kids. Young, simple little kids wouldn't even be this stupid to get so jealous and ridiculous as you have. Oh, think what they have done, and then run mad indeed. When she says think what they have done, she's talking about his tyranny and his jealousy. And she's saying now you can really go mad. You think you were mad before, now go nuts because you have done terrible things. Stark mad. For all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. So we basically just had a taste of it before. This was nothing. Now there's something even worse that has happened. She's building up to the big news. This next line, notice how it's quite hard to say. When you get very wordy, difficult to get your mouth around lines, it means it's meant to be really spat out. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing. She's referring here to the fact that Leontes asked Camillo, one of his sort of noblemen of the court, to go and poison Polixenes, who he suspected of sleeping with his wife. That did but show thee of a fool, inconstant and damnable, ingrateful. This is her saying, that was nothing. That just showed that you were an idiot and ungrateful for your friends. And disloyal. Inconstant means disloyal. Next bit, again, really articulated, really has to be spat out because it's very wordy stuff. Nor wast much thou wouldst have poisoned good Camillo's honour to have him kill a king. So that's referring to Leontes asking Camillo to poison Polixenes. That was a terrible thing to do for Camillo's honour. Poor trespassers, more monstrous standing by. Poor trespassers means that's nothing. More monstrous standing by means but wait, there's more. Whereof I reckon the casting forth to crows thy baby daughter to be in or none or little. She's saying that Leontes ordering their baby daughter to be just taken away and left in the wood. So that's referring to the crows, cast forth to crows, to be or none or little. Again, that's nothing. So she's listing a bunch of different things that he did and saying, even that was nothing. Make sure it does build each time as much as you possibly can. Though a devil would have shed water out of fire ere done it. The general interpretation of that line is that a devil would have shed water, as like cried out of his fiery eyes before he did something as terrible as that. Now she's being a little bit sarcastic here when she says, nor is directly laid to thee the death of the young prince, whose honourable thoughts high for one so tender, cleft the heart that could conceive a gross and foolish sire, blemished his gracious dam. I'll break that down for you, that big bit there. She's being a bit sarcastic about it because of course she's just saying all these things are, all those horrible things that you did, they're just nothing. Don't even worry about it because there's something worse that you've done. Again, it's all build up to really have the impact that she wants when she reveals that the queen is dead. And when she's talking about the prince and it says thoughts high for one so tender, means like he was such a beautiful and smart young prince, basically. Cleft the heart that could conceive a gross and foolish sire, blemished his gracious dam. I find this one a little bit tricky, to be honest, in terms of the way that the language is phrased. What he's saying there is that the prince kind of broke his own heart because he couldn't believe that his mother could be so shamed by his own father. Oh my God, I want to cry. I hate it. I get genuinely upset when all this stuff happens in this play. It really hurts my feelings. And here she comes with the last kind of like, I'm gonna tell you what's happening. This is not no late thy answer. She's saying, no, you don't have to answer for that. It's fine. But the last, O lords, when I have said cry woe, the queen, the sweetest, dearest creature's dead, and vengeance for it not dropped down yet. She's saying, when I was saying something bad has happened, I meant it because the queen is dead. And interestingly, that last bit when she says, and vengeance for it not dropped down yet, she's saying that vengeance hasn't happened yet for this terrible thing. She doesn't need to say that. So why does she say that? Again, I think it comes back to the impact that she wants to have on him. She's saying, nobody's taken the blame for this yet. She wants him to step up. So let's finish with a reading. Now, I always say there are so many different ways to do it. I do this so you hear how it could be phrased, but of course you need to bring your own interpretation and your own feeling to it. Here we go. What studied torments, tyrant, has for me? What wheels, racks, fires, what flaying, boiling, in lids or oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? Thy tyranny, together working with thy jealousies, fancies too weak for boys, too green and idle for girls of 9. Oh, think what they have done, and then run mad indeed, stark mad, for all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing. That did but show thee a fool, inconstant and damnable ingrateful. Nor was't much. Thou wouldst have poisoned good Camillo's honour to have him kill a king. Poor trespassers, more monstrous standing by, whereof I reckon the casting forth to crows thy baby daughter to be none or little, though a devil would have shed water out of fire ere done it. Nor is directly laid to thee the death of the young prince, whose honourable thoughts high for one so tender, cleft the heart that could conceive a gross and foolish sire, blemished his gracious dam. This is not, no, laid to thy answer, but the last. Oh, lords, when I have said, cry woe. The queen, the sweetest, dearest creature's dead, and vengeance for it not dropped down yet. Whew. So I get a little bit teary when I do it. You don't have to do it like that. In fact, Paulina is probably a much stronger woman than I am and probably doesn't get quite so teary. This just, for me, touches a little bit near home because I have my own son, and it's just so powerful. Anyway, sorry, I always feel like a bit of an idiot when I get upset, but it's very powerful language. I blame Shakespeare. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to you in some way. I wish you the best of luck with it. Drop me your comments, questions, and requests, and good luck for all your auditions. I will see you next time.